How do you feel when someone keeps you waiting? I mean, nobody really likes waiting, but with limited store capacities, 6-foot distancing, we have gotten a little bit used to it. We can say, well, at least there's a reason for the wait. And that helps us in the process of waiting if we have a reason. But what really gives us grief is when we don't understand the reason. Like when you're driving and there's traffic, all of a sudden it's halted and you think, oh, there must be an accident or something. But then there's no real reason as things just kind of pick up. You're left kind of scratching your head. Why did everything just stop? There must have been a reason. And when there's not a reason, that's frustrating. But are some things worth waiting for? Who gets to decide what's worth waiting for? That is why today we are going to look at the story of Lazarus, which is a story about death and life. It's not life and death because that's mixing up the order. In this story of a person from Jesus' life, it's death and then life. Specifically for today, we're going to think about those times when you need God to show up, but He doesn't. These are times when you expect God to do something, but He doesn't do it. There are times when you even ask God to do something, to intervene, but it doesn't happen. What do we do when we're going through what feels like death? It's anything but life-giving, and we're just waiting for better. Well, there's a time in Jesus' life that we read about in John's Gospel in chapter 11 that helps us understand more about moments of death, sadness, confusing times, depressing, and hard times of waiting. So let's put ourselves in the place of Mary, Martha, and Lazarus for this story.
Stories of the Bible. Jesus raises Lazarus from the dead. This is Jesus,
Heyo!
who is the Son of God and the Savior of the world. While Jesus was on earth, He taught everyone about God's love. He did many miracles and healed people of their sickness. Jesus had a friend named Lazarus who was very sick. He had two sisters named Mary
That's okay.
and Martha,
Here you go.
who sent a message to Jesus telling him, "Lord, your dear friend is very sick."
So come on.
But when Jesus heard about it, He said, "Lazarus' sickness will not end in death. No, it happened for the glory of God."
What?
So although Jesus loved Martha, Mary, and Lazarus, He stayed where He was for the next 2 days.
All right, guys, let's go.
Finally, He said to His disciples, "Let's go back to Judea."
Are you sure?
But His disciples did not think this was a good idea because the people in Judea had tried to kill Jesus. But Jesus told them they were going anyway. He said, "Our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but now I will go and wake him up."
You'll be okay.
The disciples thought Jesus meant Lazarus was simply sleeping. So Jesus told them plainly, "Lazarus is dead.
What?
And for your sakes, I'm glad I wasn't there. For now you will really believe. Come, let's go see him." Thomas said to his fellow disciples, "Let's go too and die with Jesus." When Jesus arrived at Bethany, He was told that Lazarus had already been in his grave for 4 days. Many people had come to be with Mary and Martha because their brother had died. When Martha got word that Jesus was coming, she went to meet him. Martha said to Jesus, "Lord, if only you had been here, my brother would not have died."
You know, I think that everyone could say, I've had times when God didn't show up. I've had times when I've asked God to show up. I've had times when I've expected God to show up to do something, and He didn't. Think about how you would feel if someone was listening to your story, and as you were telling of the hard times you've gone through, they said, "Why don't you hurry up and get to the happy ending already?" You'd probably be a little annoyed, because even if there was a happy ending coming, you still wouldn't want to gloss over the struggle that you went through to get to that place. Our times of struggle are part of the story that affect who we are and what we believe. So let's give them the time they need for us. Talk about this question with the people you're watching with, or call or text a friend and ask them, when was a time that you felt God kept you waiting? Pause the video now and talk about that. So Mary and Martha send word to Jesus that their friend Lazarus is sick. Now, this isn't just some guy. These are some of Jesus's closest friends, like personal friends. So why didn't he go? Too busy? Well, even if that was the case, he could just say the word and his friend would have been healed. He did that with the centurion soldier and his daughter. He said that when you get back, she'll be well. And she was when that soldier got back home. Maybe because Jesus knew people were after him in Judea, looking for him and trying to arrest him, and he was trying to wait until the proper time to be arrested and die. But that can't really be it, because he had other times, like in Luke chapter 4, John chapter 10, where he was there. At those moments, Jesus was right in the middle of a physical confrontation, and we know that the scriptures say he passed through their midst, or slipped away, or escaped from their hands. It seemed as though Jesus had some sort of ninja-like skills that helped him escape at certain times. It was like a Jedi mind trick, as if to say, this isn't the Jesus you're looking for.
These aren't the droids you're looking for.
These aren't the droids we're looking for.
But it seems we get the answer to why he didn't rush right to them in verse 5 and verse 6. It says this, "Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. So when he heard that Lazarus was sick, he stayed where he was 2 more days. And then he said to his disciples, 'Let us go back to Judea.'" That little word, so. Jesus loved these people, so when he heard about what their need was, he stayed where he was. I mean, if it said Jesus loved them but needed to stay a bit longer, that would make more sense. But the original language says, so. Therefore, he stayed. Because of his love for them, he waited. Are there times when, out of God's love for us, he does nothing? God chooses to let their pain linger for a little while longer. Out of love, apparently. Jesus, out of his deep, all-consuming love for the 3 siblings, stayed where he was. This is a major statement because we know that every single one of us will have times of doubt, struggle, grief, and pain. You will have times when you cry out to God and he seems far away. But it is because his love for you. He knows something that we don't. It means that God does nothing for a time. Maybe it's because God is planning something bigger and greater for your life. But right now, it means you're stuck waiting for God to intervene. But it doesn't mean that he's not there. It doesn't mean that he's not right with you, even when you feel that maybe your prayers fall on deaf ears, that he's far away. He is the God that is with us. So for 2 days, Jesus did nothing to help his friends. And then he says, let's go see how Lazarus is doing. Then we get to verse 17, and Jesus arrives to find that Lazarus had been in a tomb for 4 days already. And this is interesting that they mention this in the scriptures, because at that time in history, there was this pretty popular belief that after death, the spirit or soul of a person hovered around the body for 3 days, hoping to find a chance to re-enter the body. Now, I don't believe that to be true, but it was a popular belief in this time and culture. It's possible that Mary and Martha could have been waiting in those 3 days with some amount of hope. But now it's already been 4 days, way past the point of expiry. Talk about this question with the people that you're watching with, or text or call someone and ask them, what are some reasons God would want you to wait? Pause the video and talk about that. I think we need to understand something. Jesus didn't show up late here. He missed everything. He missed the sickness, he missed the death, he missed the funeral, he missed the burial, and he missed the 3-day window where the soul was still waiting around for a miracle. At least that's what some of the people may have believed. The picture here in verse 17 is not a picture where Jesus shows up fashionably late, like, hey, I'm finally here. He missed the entire thing. Jesus strategically showed up after all hope was lost for a miracle in Lazarus' life. It's like Jesus planned to miss all of this and showed up at the specific time, a specific time days later than when he was first asked to show up and do something. While you think of your own struggles, you need to know that there may be times when God doesn't only let you suffer a bit longer and allow you to face trials and persecutions for the building up of your character, but sometimes he'll let things die. I think we all face times feeling and thinking, I don't see any hope. I don't see any light at the end of the tunnel. This situation is dead, buried, and gone. Sometimes things struggle. Sometimes they suffer, and sometimes they die. Apparently, in all three, Jesus can still be present. If things are going from bad to worse, from suffering to death in your life, God is still in control and still has a plan. So Jesus shows up, and we hear that Martha comes out to see Jesus, and she says, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. I want you to consider this. What are the if you had been here moments in your life? God, if you had been here, they wouldn't have died. Lord, if you had been here, my friend would still be following you. God, if you had been here, my parents wouldn't be splitting up. Jesus, if you had been here, I wouldn't have to face these addictions that I can't get past. God, if you had been here, my family wouldn't be struggling the way that they are. Lord, if you had been here, I wouldn't be having such a rough time right now. Lord, if you had been here. I remember moving back into Stevensville 4 or 5 years ago. We were wandering. We were kind of running, having been hurt and wounded by people that I called friends, people I trusted, and being left with no hope, no prospects, no place to call home. I was depending on the kindness of family to home us, store our things, and try to create a new existence in a new town, our kids uprooted to go to a new school and everything that they ever knew. And I said on more than one occasion throughout that whole transition, Lord, if you had been here. That was my response. Talk about this question with the people you're watching with, or text or call a friend and ask them, when have you said, Lord, if you had been here? Pause the video and talk about that. God, where are you in the midst of things dying? See, in Lazarus' story, there are two stories to be told: death and life. We all know the reality of tough situations. What is God waiting for? Where is the life? For Mary and Martha, it was too late. For Lazarus, it was too late. That was their reality. But even from the beginning of the story, Jesus said Lazarus' illness is not fatal. It says in some of those versions of the scriptures that it was not fatal. Well, he died, so if that's not fatal, what is? There's a second part to this story that we're going to check out next week. But as you sit with the reality of your pain, your need, your death, what might God be saying to you? Ponder that. ask God, and we'll see you next week. Peace. I just want to encourage you to hit all the like buttons on this video. It helps us to know that you're watching. As well, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow our Facebook page and our Instagram, and do ask how you can be included in one of our tiny village churches.